Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Were you there?
I welcome you to this Good Friday service, where we will hear the story of Jesus' death, a story that many of us have heard before, yet we hear the story in a time that is like no other. No matter if this is the first time that you're hearing this story or if you've been listening to the story since childhood, I invite you to open yourselves, your mind, your hearts, your ears to listen to this story once again. If you have a candle with you, I invite you to light your candle with me as we remember that Christ, the light of the world, promised to be with all of us. Even though we are scattered, each of us in our own homes, we are bound together by this presence of God. It is with great joy, with great gratitude that I give thanks for this ability for us to worship together at this time. Would you join me in prayer? Broken and bleeding God, as we hear the story that is before us, do not let us turn away. Do not let us fall asleep. Do not let us fail to witness the road you walk for us, the pain you bear for us, the love you pour out for us. Amen.
Sacred and now wounded, with grief and shame weighed down, now scornfully surrounded, with thorns and lonely crown. O sacred and what glory, what bliss and now is thine. Despise and glory, I joy to call thee mine. What thou, my Lord, hast suffered was all for sinners' gain. Mine was the transgressions, but thine the deadly pain. Oh, here I fell, my Savior, 'tis I deserve thy praise. But mark me with thy favor, vouchsafe to me thy grace. What language shall I borrow to thank thee, dearest friend, for this my dying sorrow, thy pity without end? Oh, make me thine forever, and should I faint in me, oh, let me never, never outlive my love to thee.
John chapter 18, verses 1 through 12. After he said these things, Jesus went out with his disciples and crossed over to the other side of the Kidron Valley. He and his disciples entered a garden there. Judas, his betrayer, also knew the place because Jesus often gathered there with his disciples. Judas brought a company of soldiers and some guards from the chief priests and Pharisees. They came there carrying lanterns, torches, and weapons. Jesus knew everything that was to happen to him, so he went out and he asked them, "Who are you looking for?" They answered, "Jesus the Nazarene." He said to them, "I am." When he said, "I am," they shrank back and fell to the ground. He asked them again, "Who are you looking for?" They said, "Jesus the Nazarene." Jesus answered, "I told you I am. If you are looking for me, then let these people go." This was so that the word he had spoken might be fulfilled. "I didn't lose any of those whom you gave to me." Then Simon Peter, who had a sword, drew it and struck the high priest's servant, cutting off his right ear. Jesus told Peter, "Put your sword away. Am I not to drink the cup the Father had given me?" Then the company of soldiers, the commander, and the guards from the Jewish leaders took Jesus into custody. This is the gospel of the Lord. May the grace and Lord surround you and be with you on this Good Friday.
Broken Savior, trembling God, bruised and mocked, denied, betrayed. Is this how salvation grows? Love that rises through the pain. Broken Savior, trembling God, bruised and mocked, denied, betrayed. Is this how salvation grows? Love that rises through the pain.
So the soldiers, their commanding officer, and the temple guards arrested Jesus and tied him up. First they took him to Annas, the father-in-law of Caiaphas, the high priest that year. Caiaphas was the one who had told the other Jewish leaders, "Better that one should die for all." Simon Peter followed along behind, as did another of the disciples. That other disciple was acquainted with the high priest, so he was allowed to enter the courtyard with Jesus. Peter stood outside the gate. Then the other disciple spoke to the woman watching at the gate, and she let Peter in. The woman asked Peter, "Aren't you one of Jesus' disciples?" "No," he said, "I am not." The guards and the household servants were standing around a charcoal fire they had made because it was cold, and Peter stood there with them, warming himself. Inside, the high priest began asking Jesus about his followers and what he had been teaching them. Jesus replied, "What I teach is widely known because I have preached regularly in the synagogues and the temple. I have been heard by people everywhere, and I teach nothing in private that I have not said in public. Why are you asking me this question?" And those who heard me, they know what I said. One of the temple guards standing there struck Jesus on the face. "Is that the way to answer the high priest?" he demanded. Jesus replied, "If I said anything wrong, you must give evidence for it. Should you hit a man for telling the truth?" Then Annas bound Jesus and sent him to Caiaphas, the high priest. Meanwhile, as Simon Peter was standing by the fire, they asked him again, "Aren't you one of his disciples?" "I am not," he said. But one of the household servants of the high priest, a relative of the man whose ear Peter had cut off, asked, "Didn't I see you out there in the olive grove with Jesus?" Again, Peter denied it, and immediately a rooster crowed.
Broken Savior, trembling God, bruised and mocked, denied, betrayed. Is this how salvation grows? Love that rises through the pain. Broken Savior, trembling God, bruised and mocked, denied, betrayed. Is this how salvation grows? Love that rises through the pain.
Then the Jews led Jesus from Caiaphas to the palace of the Roman governor. By now it was early morning, and to avoid ceremonial uncleanliness, the Jews did not enter the palace. They wanted to be able to eat the Passover. So Pilate came out to them and asked, "What charges are you bringing against this man?" "If he were not a criminal," they replied, we would not have handed him over to you." Pilate said, "Take him yourselves and judge him by your own law." "But we have no right to execute anyone," the Jews objected. This happened so that the words Jesus had spoken, indicating the kind of death he was going to die, would be fulfilled. Pilate then went back inside the palace, summoned Jesus, and asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "Is that your own idea?" Jesus asked, "or did others talk to you about me?" "Do you think I am a Jew?" Pilate replied. "It was your people and your chief priests who handed you over to me. What is it you have done?" Jesus said, "My kingdom is not of this world. If it were, my servants would fight to prevent my arrest by the Jews. But now my kingdom is from another place." "You are a king, then?" said Pilate. Jesus answered, "You are right in saying I am a king. In fact, for that reason I was born, and for this I came into the world to testify to the truth. Everyone on the side of the truth listens to me." "What is the truth?" Pilate asked. With this he went out again to the Jews and said, "I find no basis for a charge against him. But it is your custom for me to release to you one prisoner at the time of the Passover. Do you want me to release the king of the Jews?" They shouted back, "No, not him. Give us Barabbas." Now Barabbas had taken part in a rebellion. Then Pilate took Jesus and had him flogged. The soldiers twisted together a crown of thorns and put it on his head. They clothed him in a purple robe and went up to him again and again, saying, "Hail, O King of the Jews!" And they struck him in the face. Once more Pilate came out and said to the Jews, "Look, I'm bringing him out to you to let you know that I find no basis for a charge against him." When Jesus came out wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe, Pilate said to them, "Here is the man." As soon as the chief priests and their officials saw him, they shouted, "Crucify! Crucify!" But Pilate answered, "You take him and crucify him. As for me, I find no basis for a charge against him." The Jews insisted, "We have a law, and according to that law, he must die because he claimed to be the Son of God." When Pilate heard this, he was even more afraid, and he went back inside the palace. "Where do you come from?" he asked Jesus. But Jesus gave him no answer. "Do you refuse to speak to me?" Pilate said. "Don't you realize I have power either to free you or to crucify you?" Jesus answered, "You would have no power over me if it were not given to you from above. Therefore, the one who handed me over to you is guilty of a greater sin." From then on, Pilate tried to set Jesus free, but the Jews kept shouting, "If you let this man go, you are no friend of Caesar. Anyone who claims to be a king opposes Caesar." When Pilate heard this, he brought Jesus out and sat down on the judge's seat at a place known as the Stone Pavement, which in Aramaic is Gabbatha. It was the day of preparation of Passover, week about the 6th hour. "Here is your king," Pilate said to the Jews. But they shouted, "Take him away! Take him away! Crucify him!" "Shall I crucify your king?" Pilate asked. "We have no king but Caesar," the chief priests answered. Finally, Pilate handed him over to be crucified. So the soldiers took charge of Jesus.
Broken Savior, trembling God, bruised and mocked, denied, betrayed. Is this how salvation grows? Love that rises through the pain. Broken Savior, trembling God, bruised and mocked, denied, betrayed. Is this how salvation grows? Love that rises through the pain.
This is the breaking, when the very ground seems to crumble, because this is what it means to be forsaken. Scream, but no one will hear, so save that breath for your last. 3, 2. And your bones seem to split and fracture as every face that once loved you howls like a hunter, and you are the prey. And they tell you to pray and see if that will make it better. Pray to the God who left you. 3, 2. I do not wish this on you, to feel your body destroyed, your joints disintegrate, your mouth dry up, your blood pour out, and all the while the crowd looming, waiting for you to crack. This is the breaking, when the betrayals and denials cannot be taken back and you are alone. Will those stones cry out now? Will those angels carry me now? No. 3, 2. I will pray to the God who left me, because what else is there to do? No one else is listening either. Do not save me. I am gone. Save them. Forgive them. Save them. 3, 2, 1.
So the soldiers took charge of Jesus. Carrying his own cross, he went out to the place of the skull, which in Aramaic is called Golgotha. There they crucified him, and with him 2 others, one on each side, and Jesus in the middle. Pilate had a notice prepared and fastened to the cross. It read, Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. Many of the Jews read this sign, for the place where Jesus was crucified was near the city, and the sign was written in Aramaic, Latin, and Greek. The chief priests of the Jews protested to Pilate, "Do not write King of the Jews, but that this man claimed to be King of the Jews." Pilate answered, "What I have written, I have written." When the soldiers crucified Jesus, they took his clothes, dividing them into 4 shares, one for each of them, with the undergarment remaining. The garment was seamless, woven in one piece from top to bottom. "Let's not tear it," they said to one another. "Let's decide by lot who will get it." This happened that the scripture might be fulfilled that said, "They divided my clothes among them and cast lots for my garment." So this is what the soldiers did. Near the cross of Jesus stood his mother's sister, Mary the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother there, and the disciple whom he loved standing nearby, he said to her, "Woman, here is your son," and to the disciple, "Here is your mother." From that time on, the disciple took her into his home. Later, knowing that everything had now been finished, so that the scripture would be fulfilled, Jesus said, "I am thirsty." A jar of wine vinegar was there, so they soaked a sponge in it, put the sponge on a stalk of hyssop plant, and lifted it to Jesus' lips. When he had received the drink, Jesus said, "It is finished." With that, he bowed his head and gave up his spirit.
Now it was the day of preparation, and the next day was to be a special Sabbath. Because the Jewish leaders did not want the bodies left on the crosses during the Sabbath, they asked Pilate to have the legs broken and the bodies taken down. The soldiers therefore came and broke the legs of the first man who had been crucified with Jesus and those of the other, but when they came to Jesus, they found he was already dead. They did not break his legs. Instead, one of the soldiers pierced Jesus' side with a spear, bringing a sudden flow of blood and water. The man who saw it has given testimony, and his testimony is true. He knows that he tells the truth, and he testifies so that you also may believe. These things happened so that the scripture would be fulfilled. Not one of his bones will be broken, and as another scripture says, they will look on the one they have pierced. Later, Joseph of Arimathea asked Pilate for the body of Jesus. Now Joseph was a disciple of Jesus, but secretly because he feared the Jewish leaders. With Pilate's permission, he came and took the body away. He was accompanied by Nicodemus, the man who earlier had visited Jesus at night. Nicodemus brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 75 pounds. Taking Jesus' body, the two of them wrapped it with spices in strips of linen. This was in accordance with the Jewish burial customs.
The night weeps and covers the earth with her protective arms, whispering, "I will hold you." The skies crack and the earth groans as God dies. And the wilderness is truly empty, and there is nothing but silence. The kind of silence that comes when there is no more point to breath. And yet somehow, the rest of us still go on. Breathe with us, O earth. Breathe with us, O sky. Breathe with us, O night. Stay with us as we wait. We wait. We wait.